going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I want to start making maybe these videos probably bi-weekly. I think weekly would be a little too much. But see a lot of other book YouTubers and kind of like every other YouTube channel. I'm gonna be inspired by them. Sorry, there's a train going by. I'm gonna be inspired by them and somewhat copy the things they're doing. So this is just gonna be a little update video, just talking about what I'm reading. Goodness, that train. Of course, the time I picked to record, there's a train going by. Anyways, largely unedited. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna have a good time. It is a cozy day here in Michigan. I have work off today because it's raining, and you can't really be up on a roof when it's raining a lot. It's cloudy. It's cold. I love it. It's really nice. So we're gonna be cozy. We're gonna talk about some books I'm reading, and I'm gonna also share with you some notable book pickups from the past couple months here. So let's do that. Okay, cool. So 3 days ago now, or 2 or 3 days ago, I finished the first part of Septology, which is the other name, or I guess the first book, because I guess there is a first part in the actual book itself. But I finished the first book, the other name of Septology, and I can't get over Jan Fosse. I think that's how you pronounce it. I can't get over this man at all. I mentioned it in one of my shorts that it's like when I originally started my reading journey, I was like, I'm just gonna read classics. Like, it doesn't seem like anything's interesting's really coming out nowadays and stuff like that. And I couldn't have been further from the truth, because this is an author who it just writes in such a unique way that I haven't personally experienced before. And it's interesting because the way he writes is almost kind of like the way our consciousness works, where it's very repetitive, but it's also very noticing, and it goes back and forth on a lot of things. And in the middle of situations, he will think out different things that could go on in the conversation or whatever's happening, but then they end up not happening. And I think it's just so interesting, that dynamic, and it's a little daunting at times. It's, the repetition can be a bit much, but it's so beautiful, and it's so good, and the prose are so simple too, that while what I'm explaining might make it sound a little intimidating, and there's not periods, it's always commas and ands, and then there's question marks, but the sentences that follow the question marks never have a capitalized letter, meaning that it is still the same sentence, but it's so easy, and it's so easy to slip into the melody of the way the prose are written, and because of that, and because of the way they're written, it feels very conversational. I just can't believe how taken aback I am every time I slip into Jan Fosse. And I know that a lot of people say that he's kind of an author who is allowed to publish his first drafts of writings, and some people don't like that. They feel like there could be editing and stuff like that. But Dostoevsky, another one of my favorites, often couldn't edit his first drafts either. And his works are still beloved, some 200 years now from the date they were written. So I could see that happening with Jan Fosse. So anyways, super long spiel. It's okay. That's what this video is for. I finished the first part, and as much as I want to keep just plowing through it, I think I'm gonna just take a little break from it, read a little something in between each of the independent works contained in Septology. So that's that. So I made that video about books I am forcing myself to read throughout the year. I've read 4 of them now, and I'm now reading a 5th, and that 5th one is Cormac McCarthy's Orchard Keeper. Now I am just about 60-ish pages into this one. I started it yesterday morning, and then after work yesterday, I didn't read it all, so I'd probably be farther along. And actually, after I upload this video, I will just continue reading it. I'm not sure what to think so far. It's a little all over the place. It's a little scattered, which I guess is kind of typical for Cormac's earlier works, but One thing that is also typical is the level of prose that McCarthy has. Like, it is incredible to me that this doesn't feel too much different from where he ended up going in his literature career. Obviously, it's a little less refined, but it is still just so beautiful. On the mountain, the limestone shelves and climbs in ragged escarpments among the cluttering roots of hickories, oaks, and tulip poplars, which even here brace themselves against the precarious declination allotted them by the chance drop of a seed. Like, it's top tier. There are writers who have been writing, this is his debut novel. He was my age when he published this novel. And there are writers who have written for 50 years who could not produce the amount of flow and beauty that Cormac McCarthy can in like a single section of a book. And that is what is so incredible to me, just the descriptions of the southern nature that is the setting of this book. It just is so fantastic. And there's some really funny moments in here too. Like there's a big porch collapse at a bar that was quite hilarious to read through. And then this is still early on, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but a man gets assaulted with a jack that they use on a car from a hitchhiker that he picks up, ends up killing the guy, but he has a broken shoulder from the attack, so he hears a car coming, so he shoves the guy under the car. A family of 4 stops. A family of 4 offer him help. They get out of the truck and they ask him what the guy's doing under the car, and the man's just like, he's fixing the muffler. And it's just, that made me laugh quite a bit. It's unfortunate that Cormac didn't lean more into his humor, because other than Child of God is quite bleakly and dark, blackly maybe. It's a black comedy. It's hilarious a lot of times in the wrong ways. But it is something that is like, he just so good with his timing and stuff. So I'm loving that. And then usually, I usually have like kind of a more spiritual or like orthodox read going on. So, and I'm as moody with my spiritual reading as I am with my novel reading. So, a lot of the times it is kind of writings or lives of the saints that I'm reading. But right now I'm kind of just feeling the need to learn more history. That's just kind of what's piquing my interest right now. So we have Eusebius as the history of the church. Not too far in here. It's very dry, as you could maybe guess from a work that was like, I'm not going to math backwards. This is like within the first 300 years of the church. I think it's also the only surviving manuscript we have of that time in the church. So but what he has written so far, really interesting, citing a lot of other works and everything. So just excited to see kind of like how the church grew, was persecuted, what things happened with specific people, and all that, because there's a lot that went on in that first 300-year period of the church. So we have that as well. And then also too, for spiritual reading, you can see it up here, the Prologue of Orid by St. Nikolai. Every single day, the Orthodox Church commemorates saints, martyrs, holy people, and things like that. And so this was written, I think, around in the 50s by St. Nikolai, and it just talks about all the saints of every day of the year. Not every single one, but the more notable ones, and then kind of footnotes for the less notable ones, if you will. Although there aren't less notable saints. It's just, this book would be like 4 times its size if you went into grave detail. This is also missing a lot of contemporary saints, but that's fine. But yeah, every single day it'll have usually like the saints, and it'll give like a little background of maybe like important things that they did in their lifetime, or just even their history. And then there's even like usually a hymn, a reflection, contemplation on the Bible, and then he gives a little homily, which is basically like a little lecture about what we learned this day, or what we read about in the book. So, the fact that one man like did all of this, it was his life's work, just incredible to me. So I try to get in here every single day that I can. And every single day I am blessed learning about these holy men and women. These are also the most expensive books I own. I'm not going to share the price, but I think this is well worth the price and something that is infinitely, hypothetically rereadable because you read through it every single year. So, Prologue of Orid. So, let's talk about some book pickups now. During the summer months, I went crazy buying books. I wasn't able to read really based on my work schedule and everything. But I just kept finding good deals for books and things I was interested in. So I was like, you know what? Summertime, getting a lot of overtime right now. I can buy some books. And by some books, I mean like a lot more than I probably should have. But in doing so, I also have constantly been unhauling books as well. Kind of keeping my space like less cluttered, especially as my reading interest is mildly like changing, and I'm kind of becoming more in tune with the things that hold my attention and draw me into them. This first book is kind of not at all in that vein, but this was on sale for so cheap on Amazon, and I looked at it so many times in stores, and it's a tome in its own right, but it's not even fiction. We have The History of the Hobbit by John D. Ratcliffe. I think is how you'd pronounce it. And you might be like, Brent, dude, you just got rid of your Great Tales of Middle-earth book set because you said you don't like the extracurricular, like Tolkien stuff. That is true. However, this is specifically about the Book of the Hobbit. This includes the first unpublished draft, and then also there is reflections and kind of draws where the inspirations came from and what changes were made along the way. And you might be like, that sounds like not that cool. That sounds like something you're not going to read. Beloved, I don't think I've ever said it on here. Maybe I'm at a point where I can make like a top 10 books that I've read of all time. But The Hobbit is in there. The Hobbit is within like the top 5 at least. I love The Hobbit. I love it. It's so dear to me. I read it growing up like so many times. Before I got into reading as an adult, I was a fairly avid reader in like 3rd and 4th and 5th grade, and then I started focusing on like dating girls in middle school. So I stopped reading because reading was stupid. I'm just playing. It was stupid to me at the time, and so but getting back into it, having reread The Hobbit, it is something I just so enjoy. So why not pick up an 1,000-page book about the making and the differences of The Hobbit as it just grew into a story and everything. So we got that one. And then we got Koima Stories by Varlam Shamalam. I need to figure out how to pronounce that word and these 2 words. I got stories down pretty good. But yeah, this is a recounting of this man. He was a slave in the gold mines during Soviet Russia, and then started kind of like chronicling experiences he had in like the shorter form, but it's also somewhat literary, but it's kind of the best of both worlds. You're getting all the nonfiction, but it's kind of plays out in a more fiction style, you know what I'm saying? So, and this is like the first, there's a second volume of this, which I think is even thicker that New York Review Books puts out, but this is like the first definitive collection of his translated works into English. So this has a lot in it, and so again, always interested in learning about this time period in Russia. And interesting too, this is a man who did obviously experience the gulags, but he also was a coal miner, or a gold miner, I think. Hold on, it says it on here. He was a slave in the gold mines. So just another section of suffering that took place under the USSR. So really interested to read this, that's cool. And then we got 3 novels by Mr. Samuel Beckett. So I know Leaf by Leaf loves this guy. If you watch his videos, you will see this man's face across I think 5 or 6 books, sitting back here on his bookshelf. But when I first discovered Young Fase, I kept looking into what are authors that maybe inspired him to write in the way he writes, and also what are like authors that just, you know, I like feel like him, you know. So and this man is brought up constantly. So me and my wife, we had a little date time on Saturday 2 weeks ago, and you know, as part of that date time, you know, we go to one of her stores, we get to go to one of mine. Not that my wife's not a reader; she very much is a reader, but we you know, we went to Barnes and Noble, and I was like, you know, I just keep seeing this guy. I've heard great things about him. Or pick this up, and these are this is 3 novels. This is Malloy, Malone Dies, and The Unnameable, which I think this is technically a trilogy. I think all the books kind of play off each other. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it says in the trilogy, so and you can tell this is like Young Fawcett, because there are just full like dozens of pages with no paragraph breaks, likely few to none periods, few to no periods, and yeah, I'm just excited. This one will probably make its way, you know, to be read this year. I might, you know, push aside the books I promised the channel and myself I would read before the year is out, and read this, because I just keep hearing such good things, like the more and more I dig into it. So there's that. And then next up we have 2 works by Ernest Hemingway. I tried reading A Farewell to Arms, and I got like 50-ish pages into it, but I just wasn't in the mood for a wartime novel. So I put it down, and I might return to it later. But I had already read like a couple wartime novels prior to reading that one. I read The Stalin Front by Gert Ledig, which I got rid of, and then I also read The People Immortal by Felicity Grossman, which those 2 books I actually added to my unhaul the next day when I went to actually take them to the store. Because I'd read both of them, and it was like, Gert Ledig's one, The Stalin Front, was pretty good. The People Immortal, I was like, it's kind of not that great, so I got rid of them. But in my interest in Hemingway, I picked these up on Labor Day weekend. Me and my wife, we took a trip to Lake Michigan, and it was fantastic, just sitting by the water. Don't tell her, but I think Lake Michigan, after my mother, was like my first love as a boy, because, you know, I grew up going there like almost every summer and just spending a lot of time on the beach. And you know, when I was in my teenage years, I didn't usually like to spend a lot of time at the beach. You know, I'm very fair. I don't like the heat, but when we went, it was very cool. So we would go to the beach early in the morning and stay until like the afternoon. And when it got really hot, then we'd go into town somewhere and, you know, be more inside. But then once evening came, we'd be back at the beach and stay until sunset. So just fantastic. And, you know, Ernest Hemingway writes a lot about the sea, and there's a little bookshop at the place we stayed. So we got the complete short stories of Ernest Hemingway. I say this all the time. I need to get better at reading short stories. Faulkner described the short story as kind of the, you know, the like highest form of literature, or the most demanding form of literature after poetry. And I think that's true in a sense, because sometimes you can read a short story and it's like, this kind of sucked, and then sometimes you read a short story and it like blows your socks off. It's very, very demanding. Like, you have to be firing on all cylinders to make something engaging for only like 15 to 20 pages. And I've heard that Ernest was one of the best at it, that this is probably better than many of the novels he actually put out. Like, he just flourished in the short story. I've heard the same about Stephen King, but I don't trust that, because we'll save that for another day. I'm not a fan. Anyways, so yeah, we got the complete short stories here, and then we also got the Nick Adams stories, which I've heard are just incredible, slight retellings of Ernest Hemingway's own life and growing up. Deals a lot with nature, and actually I stood in the bookstore. The reason I have both of these is because I stood in the bookstore comparing what was in here to what was in here, and I think this just has the old Big-Hearted River. What's it called? Two-Hearted River? Something River. Big-Hearted River. Big Two-Hearted River. Okay, I was getting it confused. This only had, like, that's the only overlap between these two, and then these ones are also entirely different. So, yeah, got both of those. I will probably read this one first, because it's a little more, like, you know, the stories kind of go with each other. So it'll make it feel like a little easier to kind of just slip into the short stories and then also keep reading the book. So yeah. So I mean, that's just like a few that I've picked up. Obviously there are more. We'll show you an Orthodox book. I don't really talk about them on here, but we got Genesis, Creation, and Early Man, the Orthodox Christian Vision by Father Seraphim Rose. This is a just massive book, 1,000 pages, and then it's like the whole, here, hold on, let me go to the back here. This is all just notes and also like the index and the citations, the bibliography, everything that this man researched to write this book. This is truly Father Seraphim Rose's like life achievement, because prior to becoming a monk in the Orthodox Church, lived a very worldly life, and becoming Orthodox, he had to challenge some of the things he believed in. Like, he believed all in the evolution stuff, and I'm not here to make a definitive judgment on it. It is just something that I've always been interested in. It's not something that would shake my faith, whether it's proved like, oh, evolution is the truth, or the 6-day account we read in Genesis is the truth. Like, it's not something that would like actually change the way I feel about anything, but it's just interesting. It's just neat. So, but what I'm getting at is that he came from that perspective, and then had to reconcile that with what he was being taught from within the church, and that's kind of the goal of the church, is to change one heart, and that's kind of the goal of the church, is to kind of change one's heart into like being a part of the church, and there's certain core issues that like there's dogmatic stances you like have to be a part of and everything, but this is just him going through the scientists and the church fathers, and really just digging in and digging deep on this whole issue. So yeah, really excited for that. I will probably just struggle through this for a while. So yeah, cool. All right, beloved, I have talked long enough. Thank you for staying and seeing this update here. I'm going to edit this video real quick. There was a few parts that I kind of just got choked up on, but I'm going to leave it just kind of how it is. So yeah. We'll see you in the next one. I love you. Keep reading. God bless. And again, we will see you in the next one. How many more times can I say that?